The mist hung thick over the alien forest, twisting between the glowing trees like silent ghosts. Elias Varan moved carefully, his boots crunching softly on the strange moss that seemed to pulse under his weight. He had explored many worlds, but this one felt different. The air was heavy with tension, and the distant cries of unknown creatures echoed in the haze. Something told him that today would not be ordinary. A sudden roar shattered the quiet. Elias froze, scanning the misty shadows. The sound was unlike anything he had ever heard, deep and resonant, shaking the leaves overhead. He followed the sound, moving cautiously, each step measured. Then he saw it. A massive creature struggled in a net of bright, humming energy. Its scales shimmered in shifting shades of green and blue, reflecting the faint light of the alien trees. The creature had wings folded tightly against its body, and its long tail lashed the air in panic. Its eyes, golden and intelligent, locked on Elias. Fear and confusion shone in them, but there was also a glimmer of trust, or perhaps a desperate plea. Elias took a deep breath. He had faced dangerous situations before, but freeing a dragon-sized creature from an alien trap was something entirely new. The net was advanced technology, humming with energy that burned to the touch. One wrong move and it could fry him in an instant, or worse, kill the creature. He crouched, studying the web-like trap, tracing the faint lines of energy that pulsed in patterns. The roar came again, louder this time, and Elias flinched. He whispered softly, as if the creature could understand him, "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." The dragon tilted its head, its sharp gaze following his movements. Elias scanned his surroundings for anything he could use. Broken branches, jagged rocks, even the glowing moss, anything to disrupt the net without touching it directly. He noticed the energy lines were connected to small hovering nodes, each pulsing in rhythm. Timing and precision would be critical. He grabbed a sharp stone and carefully chipped at a rock nearby, sending a controlled spark toward one of the nodes. The energy flared and shifted, causing the net to flicker. The dragon hissed but did not thrash wildly. Encouraged, Elias adjusted his plan. He moved slowly, thinking each step through, and repeated the process on the other nodes. Sweat dripped down his forehead as the mist thickened, making it harder to see, but he refused to stop. The creature, sensing his careful actions, calmed slightly, lowering its wings. Finally, with one last careful maneuver, Elias severed the final node. The net dissolved in a flash of light, leaving the dragon free. It stretched its wings, towering over Elias, and let out a roar, not of fear but of relief. The ground trembled beneath its weight, and Elias stumbled back, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. The dragon lowered its massive head, bringing its eyes level with his. Elias could see the intelligence there, sharp and aware. It sniffed the air, then sniffed him, tilting its head curiously. "Easy," Elias said, his voice calm. "You're safe now." The dragon, whose name he did not yet know, nudged him gently with its snout. Elias felt the warmth of its scales, surprisingly soft despite their armor-like appearance. He smiled, a mixture of relief and awe. "I think we're going to be okay, for now," he murmured. But the mist shifted again and Elias sensed movement. Shadows between the glowing trees hinted that the danger wasn't over. He glanced around, spotting strange shapes moving through the fog. His instincts screamed that the trap had not been set by accident. Something, or someone, was hunting the dragon, and now he was part of this story. The dragon growled softly, a low rumble that vibrated through the forest floor. Elias realized it wasn't warning him, it was warning both of them. He stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on the dragon's neck. "We need to move," he said. "Stay close and don't make sudden moves." With a careful glance at the misty shadows, Elias led the way. The dragon followed, its massive wings brushing the treetops, careful not to crash. Every step was tense, every sound amplified in the thick fog. The distant roars of other creatures mixed with mechanical whirs, and Elias knew they had only minutes before the hunters caught up. As they moved, Elias studied the dragon. Its scales shimmered like liquid metal, and the eyes, so human in their intelligence, watched him constantly. He could feel a connection forming, fragile but undeniable. This creature was not just a beast, it was a being capable of thought, perhaps even trust. Suddenly the ground shook beneath them. Elias froze. Through the mist, a sleek, armored drone emerged, scanning with bright red sensors. The dragon hissed and lowered its wings, crouching defensively. Elias's mind raced. He had no weapons, only his wits. He whispered, "Follow my lead. We can outsmart it." He ran toward a cluster of thick, glowing trees, hoping to use the environment. The dragon mirrored his movements, agile despite its size. The drone hesitated as the shadows played tricks on its sensors. Elias used the moment to leap onto a fallen log, swinging toward another tree. The drone tried to follow, but its sensors malfunctioned in the dense mist. They escaped, at least for the moment. Elias's heart pounded, and he glanced at the dragon. It lowered its massive head in acknowledgement, a silent thanks. Elias smiled, feeling a surge of pride and relief. He had risked everything and it had paid off. But he knew this was just the beginning. The mist thickened around them as they moved deeper into the forest. Elias could hear the faint hum of more drones approaching. He whispered to the dragon, "We need to find a safe place. Somewhere no one can reach us." The dragon's wings flicked in agreement, its tail swishing slowly behind it. Together, human and dragon disappeared into the mist, moving cautiously, aware that danger lurked everywhere. Elias knew this world held many secrets and he was determined to uncover them, all while protecting the creature that had just trusted him with its life. For the first time in his life, Elias felt the thrill of a true alliance, one that could change everything he knew about humans, dragons, and the universe itself. The forest grew darker as Elias and the dragon moved deeper into the mist. The faint glow of the trees did little to ease the tension in the air. Every rustle of leaves, every distant cry made Elias's heart beat faster. He knew they were being followed. The drone he had seen before was only the beginning. Somewhere in the mist, the hunters waited. The dragon walked carefully beside him, its enormous wings folded tightly. Elias had started calling it Caliph, after a name he had read in old legends of dragon-like creatures from other worlds. Calith's eyes scanned the forest constantly, ears twitching at every sound. Elias realized that, despite its size and strength, the dragon was alert and cautious, like a partner who understood danger better than any human could. "We need to keep moving," Elias whispered. "If they catch us, neither of us will survive." Caliph tilted its head and let out a low rumble, almost like a reply. Elias took it as agreement and led the way toward a narrow canyon he had noticed from above. It was steep, jagged, and difficult to traverse, but it offered shelter from the open forest and hopefully from the Draxari hunters. The Draxari. He had learned the name from intercepted messages on his comm device earlier. They were an advanced alien species that hunted rare creatures for their experiments. They were clever, cruel, and had technology far beyond what Elias had ever seen. The thought of them pursuing Caliph made his stomach tighten. As they approached the canyon, Caliph suddenly stopped. Its golden eyes glowed brighter in the mist, and a soft hiss escaped its throat. Elias froze beside it. "What is it?" he whispered. From the mist, a movement came, swift, silent, almost invisible. Elias barely caught the glimpse of a Draxari scout, its armor blending with the shadows. It raised a weapon that hummed with energy. The dragon growled and flared its wings, creating a wall of shadow and light that hid them both. Elias's mind raced. He had no weapons to fight these hunters directly. But he had wits. "Follow me," he murmured, pointing toward a series of narrow rock formations. Caliph understood instantly, shifting its massive body and moving with surprising agility. The Draxari scout scanned the mist, its sensors unable to detect the dragon in the shadows. It hissed in frustration and moved on, unaware of the humans and dragons slipping through its grasp. Elias exhaled slowly, feeling a small sense of victory. Caliph nudged him gently, almost as if to say, "Well done." They reached the canyon entrance and Elias could see that the walls were high and jagged, perfect for hiding. The narrow path led to a small cave where Caliph could rest. Elias gestured for the dragon to enter, and Caliph complied, lowering itself carefully so it would fit. Inside, Elias studied Caliph. The dragon's scales shimmered even in the dim light, shifting colors like liquid metal. He could see small scars along its wings and body, signs of past battles or perhaps previous captures. It was intelligent, aware, and wary, but it also trusted him enough to stay close. "We need to figure out a plan," Elias said quietly. "We can't just keep running. They will keep coming." Caliph responded with a series of low tones, vibrating against the cave walls. Elias listened carefully, realizing the dragon was trying to communicate. Though he could not understand words, he could sense emotion, fear, curiosity, and a cautious willingness to cooperate. Elias nodded. "I understand. We'll do it together." He spent the next hours exploring the cave and its surroundings, marking paths, hiding spots, and places where they could set traps if the Draxari returned. Caliph watched him closely, sometimes shifting closer when Elias inspected narrow passages. Slowly, an uneasy alliance was forming. The dragon was still wary, and Elias knew he had to earn its full trust. Suddenly the cave shook. Rocks tumbled from above, and a distant roar echoed through the canyon. Elias and Caliph froze. It was not the Draxery this time. Something else moved in the canyon, a massive shadow, faster and more dangerous than any human or Draxery could be. Caliph hissed, lowering its body defensively. Elias could feel his heart pound. "We don't know what that is," he whispered. "But we need to be ready." The shadow circled the entrance to the cave. Elias realized it was another creature, one of the native predators of this planet. Its size was enormous, almost as big as Caliph, with limbs that seemed made to crush and a mouth full of sharp, glinting teeth. It paused, sniffing the air, its gaze fixed on Caliph. Caliph let out a roar that echoed through the canyon. Elias flinched as the sound vibrated against the stone. The predator responded with a terrifying howl, circling closer. Elias realized that running would be pointless. They needed to face the creature together. Caliph shifted in front of Elias, spreading its wings slightly. Elias felt a rush of awe. The dragon was ready to defend him, just as he was ready to think of a way to survive. He grabbed a heavy rock and prepared to throw it if needed, hoping to distract the predator. The predator lunged, and Caliph responded with a powerful sweep of its tail, knocking the creature off balance. Elias scrambled to help, using rocks and quick movements to create barriers. The predator stumbled, confused by the combined defense. Caliph hissed and flared its wings again, showing strength Elias had not expected. Finally, the predator retreated, disappearing into the misty canyon. Elias collapsed against the cave wall, breathing hard. Caliph lowered its head, touching Elias gently with its snout. Elias smiled weakly. "We make a good team," he said. Caliph rumbled in agreement. The uneasy alliance had grown stronger through danger. Elias knew it would not be easy, more Draxery scouts and unknown predators lurked, but for the first time he felt that he and Caliph could face the challenges ahead together. Outside, the mist swirled, hiding the dangers that still waited. Elias looked at Caliph and whispered, "We're just getting started." The dragon's golden eyes glowed softly in response, a silent promise that it was ready to face whatever came next. Together they settled in the cave for the night, alert and cautious, but no longer strangers. In the heart of the misty forest, a human and a dragon had formed a bond, one that might change the balance of this wild, dangerous world forever. The mist in the canyon hung thicker than ever, making every shadow look like a threat. Elias crouched behind a jagged rock, his heart pounding. Caliph stood beside him, massive wings folded but muscles tense, ready to strike. The human could hear the faint hum of approaching drones. There was no doubt. The Draxery had found them. "They're coming," Elias whispered, scanning the canyon. He counted at least 3 patrol drones moving slowly through the fog. Their red sensors glowed, cutting through the mist, searching for any sign of life. Elias clenched his fists. He had no weapons that could match Draxery technology. But he had Caliph and he had his mind. Caliph's eyes narrowed. The dragon hissed softly, low and warning, vibrating through the canyon. Elias understood immediately. Caliph was telling him to be patient, to wait for the right moment. He nodded. "I know, friend. We'll do this smart." The drone stopped near the mouth of the canyon, scanning. Elias noticed the rhythm of their movement, predictable, mechanical. He motioned for Caliph to follow as he slowly circled to the left, toward a narrow ledge that ran above the drone's path. Caliph mirrored his movements, silent and careful, its claws gripping the rocky surface. From the ledge, Elias had a better view. The drone sensors could not reach this height, and the canyon walls would block most of their energy beams. He needed to buy time until Caliph could use its abilities. Caliph flexed its wings and exhaled a soft, glowing breath. Elias blinked. The dragon's breath created a thin, shimmering field of energy, one that seemed to distort light and motion. He realized that it could temporarily disrupt electronic devices. The drone's red sensors flickered and sputtered as Caliph focused. Elias felt a surge of hope. The first drone stumbled, sparks flying. The second moved closer, unsure, and the third hesitated. Elias took a deep breath, then dropped a heavy rock onto a cluster of glowing moss near the canyon floor. It exploded in a small burst of light, further confusing the drones. Caliph roared, a deep, resonant sound that echoed off the canyon walls. The combined effect of its energy breath and Elias's clever distractions caused the drones to misfire, their beams striking the canyon walls instead of the humans or the dragon. One drone toppled over, rolling like a fallen insect. The Draxery soldiers emerged from the mist, armored and moving with precision. They had expected an easy capture, But Elias and Caliph were not ordinary prey. Elias darted behind a rock, pulling Caliph with him. The dragon's tail lashed out, knocking one soldier off balance. Elias grabbed a loose stone and threw it, hitting the soldier's helmet. Sparks flew and the soldier stumbled back. Caliph leaped from its hiding spot, wings spreading wide. The dragon's sheer size and strength forced the soldiers to reconsider their advance. Elias saw an opening and shouted, "Now Caliph!" Caliph exhaled a second blast of energy, more concentrated this time. The air shimmered and the soldiers' weapons overloaded with sparks. One dropped its rifle, another fell to the ground, shielding its eyes from the intense glow. Elias ran along the rocks, pushing over loose boulders to create obstacles. The Draxari were skilled, but they were not expecting this level of teamwork from a human and a dragon. The battle continued, tense and chaotic. Elias felt his heart race, adrenaline sharpening his focus. He ducked behind a rock as Caliph knocked another soldier backward with a swipe of its tail. The dragon's movements were precise, almost as if it knew Elias's thoughts. They were thinking as one, instinctively coordinating to survive. The mist swirled around them, hiding their true strength from the Draxari. Elias realized that the canyon's natural layout, combined with Caliph's abilities, gave them an edge. They could fight smart, avoid direct confrontation and still disable the enemy. After a tense struggle, the remaining Draxari soldiers retreated, calling back to the drones that were beginning to malfunction. Elias collapsed against a rock, breathing hard. Caliph lowered its massive head, touching him gently with its snout. Elias smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it, for now." The dragon rumbled, a sound that Elias interpreted as pride or approval. Caliph's scales shifted in color, glowing faintly in the dim light, reflecting the faint streaks of energy still lingering in the canyon from their fight. It was a reminder of the dragon's unique power, one that the Draxari had underestimated. Elias knew this victory was temporary. The Draxari were clever and relentless. They would return stronger and better prepared. But for now he and Caliph had survived. He looked at the dragon, feeling a bond growing stronger with each shared danger. They moved deeper into the canyon, Elias leading, Caliph following silently. The path was narrow and treacherous, but it offered safety from the open areas where the Draxari could strike with their full force. Elias noticed small crevices and hidden passages that could be used as traps or hiding places in future encounters. As they settled for a brief rest, Elias touched Caliph's shimmering scales. "You saved us both," he said softly. "I couldn't have done it without you." Caliph tilted its head, golden eyes meeting his, and rumbled in response. Elias felt a deep sense of trust forming, something beyond fear or necessity. They were partners now, united against a common enemy. The mist seemed to recede slightly as they continued, revealing faint hints of movement in the shadows. Elias knew this planet was alive with dangers, predators, the Draxari and other unknown threats, but he also knew that with Caliph they could face anything. Elias stopped at a narrow ledge overlooking a deeper part of the canyon. The sun, or what passed for a sun here, faintly illuminated the rocks and mist below. He realized that survival depended not just on strength, but on cleverness, patience and trust. He glanced at Caliph, whose wings flexed as if sensing the human's thoughts. The dragon rumbled again and Elias smiled. "We'll face them together," he whispered. Caliph's glowing eyes seemed to promise the same. The canyon was quiet for a moment, the only sounds being the soft echo of distant roars and the wind through the rocks. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The Draxari would return and the challenges ahead would be even greater. But now he and Caliph had learned something important. Together they could outthink and outmaneuver an enemy far stronger than themselves. As they disappeared deeper into the canyon, the mist closed behind them, hiding their movements. A human and a dragon, united by chance and courage, were ready to face the dangers of this alien world. For Elias, the fight was no longer just about survival, it was about forging a bond that could change everything in a universe that had never expected humans and dragons to stand together. The canyon widened, revealing a hidden valley bathed in faint, glowing light. Elias paused, scanning the area carefully. The valley was unlike anything he had seen before, towering rock formations, streams of shimmering water, and vegetation that seemed almost alive. But what caught his attention most was the movement ahead. Massive shapes circling above the valley, wings stretching wide against the pale light. Caliph stiffened beside him, golden eyes narrowing. Elias followed the dragon's gaze and felt a chill. The shapes were other dragons, Caliph's kin. They moved with precision, circling, watching, their wings casting shadows across the valley floor. Elias swallowed hard. He knew that these dragons had never seen a human up close. To them he might be a threat, or prey. Caliph let out a low rumbling call. Elias listened, realizing it was a form of communication. The other dragons responded with echoes that reverberated through the valley. The sound was more than noise, it carried meaning. Elias could sense tension in the air. The dragons were wary, powerful, and ready to strike if they felt danger. Elias stepped forward slowly, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to harm you," he said softly. His voice was calm but firm. "I help Caliph. I want to protect him." One of the larger dragons swooped down, landing heavily on a rock ledge. Its scales shimmered silver and blue, eyes like molten gold. Elias realized this was the Alpha, the leader of the pack. The dragon studied him, nostrils flaring, wings twitching. Elias felt the weight of its gaze, sharp and intelligent, as if it could see into his very thoughts. Caliph stepped between Elias and the Alpha, nudging him gently. The dragon's actions seemed to speak for Elias, conveying trust and intent. Elias nodded, understanding Caliph's role as intermediary. He had to earn the pack's acceptance, and Caliph was helping him bridge the divide. The Alpha lowered its head, tilting slightly, a gesture Elias interpreted as curiosity rather than aggression. The other dragons circled closer, forming a semicircle around the human and Caliph. Elias's heart raced. One wrong move and the valley could erupt into chaos. He took a slow breath. "I want to help," he said again. "I will fight with Caliph. I will protect your kin." His voice carried sincerity. He hoped the dragons could sense it. The Alpha shifted, then let out a powerful roar that echoed across the valley. It was not a roar of anger but a signal. The other dragons responded in kind, their voices blending into a complex chorus. Elias realized they were deliberating, assessing whether this human could be trusted. Caliph rumbled softly, standing firm by Elias's side. Suddenly, a new sound cut through the valley, a mechanical hum, faint but distinct. Elias's stomach tightened. The Draxari were approaching again, more prepared than before. The dragon stiffened, sensing the threat. Caliph growled low, tail flicking, and Elias knew that action was needed. The Alpha made a decision. With a sudden sweep of its wings, it leapt into the air, signaling the pack to follow. Elias froze for a moment, unsure what the dragons intended, but Caliph nudged him forward. They moved to a narrow ridge that overlooked the approaching Draxari forces. Elias could see them now, armored soldiers moving with precision, drones hovering above, scanning for signs of life. They expected to find only one dragon. Instead, a dozen massive dragons appeared on the ridge, wings spread wide, scales glinting in the faint light. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying. The Draxari faltered, momentarily confused by the sudden display of power. Elias realized the impossible had happened. Caliph's kin had decided to fight alongside him. The dragons would not attack him. They had accepted him as an ally. Elias felt a surge of awe and responsibility. He was no longer just a human trying to survive. He was part of a force that could change the balance of power on this planet. He looked at Caliph, who met his gaze with golden eyes that seemed to say, "We trust you. Now act wisely." He quickly devised a plan. Using the ridge and the dragon's abilities, they could outmaneuver the Draxari. Elias pointed to weak spots in the terrain and whispered instructions. Caliph and the other dragons seemed to understand immediately, spreading out strategically, wings creating gusts of wind that knocked drones off balance, tails sweeping over obstacles, and energy breath from Caliph disrupting enemy equipment. The Draxari tried to adapt, but the human-dragon alliance was faster, smarter, and stronger. Elias's plan worked perfectly, creating confusion among the soldiers. They stumbled over rocks, their drones misfiring, unable to withstand the combined force of dragons and the clever human directing them. After a tense confrontation, the Draxari retreated, leaving the valley in silence. Elias stood on the ridge, chest heaving, watching them disappear into the mist. Caliph landed beside him, wings folding, and Elias reached out to touch the dragon's shimmering scales. The Alpha approached, lowering its head in what Elias now understood as respect. It had judged him not by his size or strength, but by his courage, cleverness, and loyalty. Elias bowed slightly, a gesture of gratitude. The dragons had made a choice no one expected, to accept a human as one of their own. Elias felt a deep bond with Caliph and the pack. He knew the Draxari would return eventually, but now they had something far more powerful than technology: trust, loyalty, and unity. He looked around the valley, seeing the dragons spread across the rocks, their eyes glowing softly, alert and ready. For the first time, Elias realized that humans could be more than survivors on this world. They could be allies, partners, even leaders in a fight that spanned species. With Caliph and the pack by his side, he felt a courage he had never known. The mist swirled around them, hiding the valley from distant watchers. Elias looked at the horizon and whispered, "We're ready for whatever comes next." Caliph rumbled in agreement, and the other dragons echoed softly. The human had earned their trust and in doing so had created an alliance that no one, not even the Draconis, could have predicted. Together they were a force the galaxy would not ignore, a bond of courage, loyalty and intelligence. As night fell over the valley, Elias and Caliph stood with the pack, united. The stars began to appear, glimmering above the alien world. For Elias, this moment marked not only survival but a new beginning. He was no longer just a human on a dangerous planet, he was part of something greater, a legend in the making, alongside creatures of incredible power and intelligence. The wind stirred the mist, carrying the faint echo of roars and rumbles across the valley. Elias felt it in his bones. The fight was far from over, but now they had each other. Together, human and dragons would face whatever the universe threw at them, and perhaps change it forever. The valley was quiet now, bathed in the soft glow of the alien stars. Elias stood on the ridge, watching Caliph and the other dragons spread across the rocks, alert but calm. The Draconis had retreated, and for the first time since he arrived on this planet, Elias felt a sense of peace. Yet he knew this peace was fragile. The Draconis were cunning, they would return. But now he had allies no one could have imagined. Dragons, fierce and loyal, ready to fight alongside him. Caliph landed beside him, wings folding carefully. Elias reached out and touched the dragon's shimmering scales. The dragon leaned into his hand, a quiet acknowledgement of the bond they had forged through danger and trust. Elias smiled. "We did it," he whispered, though he knew it was only the beginning. The alpha dragon approached, golden eyes glowing softly. Elias instinctively lowered his gaze in respect, and the dragon dipped its head slightly in return. Elias understood this gesture. The pack had accepted him, not as a threat, not as prey, but as a partner. He was part of their family now, and the responsibility weighed on him heavily. They moved to the edge of the valley where the land sloped downward, revealing vast stretches of the planet beyond. Rivers shimmered like silver threads, forests glowed faintly in the starlight, and mountains rose like silent guardians. Elias realized this world was far larger and more complex than he had imagined. It was full of life, full of secrets and full of dangers. But now he was not alone. Caliph shifted its wings, preparing to fly. Elias hesitated, then climbed carefully onto the dragon's back. The creature rumbled softly, almost a warning, but then lifted into the air. The wind rushed past them, cool and sharp. Elias gripped Caliph tightly, feeling the strength and power beneath him. They soared above the valley, the other dragons following in formation. The sight took his breath away. The stars reflected in the rivers below, and the forest seemed alive, whispering secrets on the wind. As they flew, Elias thought about the bond he had formed with Caliph and the pack. Humans were not supposed to survive on this world, let alone thrive alongside dragons. Yet here he was, a single human riding with creatures of incredible power, respected and trusted. The thought filled him with pride and determination. He would not fail them. Below, the Draconis retreated into the mist, but Elias knew they were plotting their return. He looked at Caliph, whose eyes met his with understanding. Together they would prepare. Together they would defend the valley, their home and their newfound alliance. But Elias also realized something more profound. Humans were more than survivors. They could inspire trust, form alliances, and change the balance of power in ways no one expected. They flew over forests, rivers, and cliffs, Caliph leading him safely through the alien terrain. The other dragons followed, their movements precise and coordinated. Elias felt a sense of unity he had never known. Every roar, every beat of wings, every low rumble from the dragons reinforced the bond that had been forged in danger. They were more than a pack, they were a force, a symbol of strength and trust. As night deepened, they returned to a hidden plateau where Caliph and the other dragons could rest. Elias dismounted carefully, brushing dust from his clothes. He looked at the dragons, each unique in color and size, and felt a deep respect for their intelligence and power. Caliph nudged him gently and Elias laughed softly. "You've changed my life," he said. The dragon rumbled in response as if agreeing. Elias knew that their story would become a legend, not just among humans but among all who might hear of it. A human had survived, had saved a dragon, and had earned the trust of an entire pack. He had proven that courage, intelligence, and loyalty could overcome even the most impossible odds. It was a story of hope, of unity, and of the strength that comes from forming bonds across worlds. As he looked at the stars, Elias felt a new determination. He would explore more of this world, learn its secrets, and protect it alongside Caliph and the pack. The Draconis might return, but he was no longer a lone human. He had allies, friends, and a family in the dragons. Together they could face any threat. The valley was quiet once more, but the night was alive with possibilities. Elias felt the wind on his face, smelled the strange, sweet scent of the alien forest, and heard the low hum of life all around him. He realized that survival was no longer the goal, it was growth, understanding, and forging connections that could last a lifetime. Caliph stretched its wings and the other dragons followed suit. Elias climbed onto the dragon's back again, feeling the thrill of flight. Together they lifted into the air, soaring over the valley, over forests and rivers toward the unknown. The stars sparkled above, and the planet stretched endlessly before them, full of challenges and wonders alike. Elias knew that he had become part of something greater than himself. A human had bridged the gap between species, had earned trust where none had existed, and had changed the course of events in a world that had once seemed so hostile. He felt pride not just in himself, but in what humans were capable of: courage, cleverness, and the ability to inspire loyalty even in the most unlikely allies. As they flew, Elias whispered to Caliph, "We'll face whatever comes next, together." The dragon rumbled softly, and the others echoed in low calls, a chorus of understanding and agreement. In that moment, Elias realized that legends were not made by power alone. They were made by actions, by choices, and by trust. Below them, the Draconis regrouped, distant and plotting, unaware of the bond that had formed above them. Elias smiled, knowing that this bond, forged in danger and strengthened by courage, would be far more powerful than any technology the Draconis could wield. Humans and dragons together could face the universe itself. The night stretched on, full of quiet winds and twinkling stars. Elias felt hope, pride, and a deep connection to the dragons around him. The valley, the canyon, and the skies above were no longer just a place of survival, they were a place of legend. And Elias, once a lone human in a hostile world, had become a part of it. Together, human and dragon soared into the night, ready to face whatever the future held. The story of Elias and Caliph, the human who earned the trust of a dragon pack, had become a new legend, one of courage, unity, and hope that would echo across the stars for generations to come.